Hey, so I'm glad you're still here and you subscribed. Thank you. And if you haven't, please do. And I want to talk about the burning of schools in Kenya and the fact that the indictment is on parenting. It's not on anybody else. It's not on teachers. It's not on the politicians. It's not on the president. It's definitely not on the media. The indictment is on parents. And we live in a country where parenting has become so laissez-faire that parents in general who've got problems, and you can tell it's through their children, want to quickly pass the buck. And the thing about all of us is this: we'll say it behind closed doors, in boardrooms before we start a meeting. It takes a few brave ones to tweet it, but we don't want to accept that something's wrong about the way these kids have been raised. They have no respect, number one, for property that is not theirs, and number two, for authority. Let's talk about property that is not yours. It's not your school. You don't get to mismanage it. You found it here, and when you leave in fourth form, you will leave it here. It has history, it has heritage. You don't get to torch that. I don't care who is actually instigating and paying a few students to do it. You don't do that. But also consequences, and I love the High Court. The High Court said, no, you're not settling out of court. You know, I was in a meeting a few days ago, and somebody told me, oh, you've heard about the Langata high parents, they want to settle out of court. And you could tell the way she was talking about it is like, really? We've got to that place where we will buy our children out of problems because clearly we didn't do our job when they were 3, 4, 5 years old. You don't get to do that. You don't get to somehow wish the problem away. Which is why I want to ask some of these kids, who's your mother? Because most of us watching you are in shock. We're like, we could not dare torch a school and go home. We would sleep outside. We would be beaten at home, and then would be beaten when we're sent back to school. And then when she's coming to pay the money to build back, that she would beat you again in front of the teacher. I know this for a fact. Just because of the way I was raised, there are things that will never cross my mind, ever. And my mother, I don't know about the rest of you all, has the same policy about certain things like the US government. She does not negotiate with terrorists. Let me tell you, in my world, call the FBI, call the CIA, call the cops. Don't call my mother. Whatever you do, don't call my mother. And I'm not the only one. I can bet you any amount of money. If you had a disagreement today with President Uhuru Kenyatta and you told him, I'm going to call your mother, he'll tell you, why the heavy artillery? Sit down, let's talk. We know this. So he's probably sitting there thinking, why are you calling me? I wouldn't dare burn the school. My mother would have killed me. And I'm president. What have you done about raising your kids? The burning of schools, the way children are behaving, is an indictment to parenting. Not to media, not to politicians. Don't tell me court is to blame. Because it's your job to tell your child, you see that nonsense? It's wrong. That's your job. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. You are the filter. And we have been caught wanting as parents. So let's get together in a room quickly and start asking ourselves, what do we need to do? Because it's not the teacher's job to raise your kids. It's not the politician's job to raise your kids. It is not media's job to raise your kids. And it's not the president's either. Because if you ask the president of this country today, I don't know how many of you actually know the Kenyattas. They whisper, Mama Ngina's name. The question I need to ask is, how many kids actually give 2 hoots? Not just about authority, about what their parents will think. We have been indicted and found wanting. The burning of schools is about poor parenting, period.